Hello everybody, this is 900 Red Yoshi, and this is just going to be me talking for a long time. I don't know how long this video is going to be. I'll probably just slap on some gameplay, whatever I decide to record, and put that in the background, just to have something for you guys to look at. So if you don't want to listen to me ramble on and talk about stuff for a while, feel free to click off this video. I'm just going to get straight to the point right up top and say this video is going to be about anger and anger management and my journey on the path to managing my anger, because it's been something that I've struggled with for my entire life. But I am happy to announce that I am finally taking the right steps to controlling my anger. So I hope with this video today that I can get my story out there and my thoughts and hopefully help others that are potentially struggling with the same issues that I am. Anyway, I just want to start off by saying anger is a very destructive thing. It's harmful to yourself and potentially to others around you if it gets to that point. And that is not a healthy thing. But don't get me wrong, anger is normal. It is something everybody has to deal with. Some people just have a harder time controlling it and dealing with it. It's healthy to learn ways to control it and find outlets for you, but I'll get to that as we progress here. So where to begin? This is a tough topic to tackle, and I didn't script this out, so there'll probably be a lot of editing going on, so just bear with me. I just kind of want to sit here and talk for a while, just get my thoughts out there. And I appreciate anyone who's willing to listen. And if not, I totally understand, and you can click off. My feelings will not be hurt. Don't worry. Where my anger issues began probably started when I was a lot younger, and growing up with video games and video games being such a big part of my life, that's what I spent most of my childhood doing, was playing video games. And I would play them so much, and I'd get super frustrated when they were difficult or I was like not doing well in a video game. And my initial reaction to frustration and anger was to just scream. When I was younger, that was pretty much the extent of it. I would just like scream at the top of my lungs out of anger, because that was just how I dealt with it. It was just my initial reaction to that feeling. And anger is a process. You aren't just like, boom, you're angry. It doesn't really work like that. There's always a stack of prior emotions that occur before anger actually happens. So, for example, there will be an initial trigger that you start feeling an emotion, and that could be sadness, frustration, or just being bothered by something. Like something happens that takes you away from being calm. Like, for example, like someone just bumps into you, like when you're walking on the sidewalk or something, they kind of bump into you and don't really care or don't say sorry or anything. You'd be like, man, what an asshole. Like, you'd be like bugged by that. Like, you'd feel that adrenaline and you'll just be like, God, like, what the fuck? You know, like an initial knee-jerk reaction. Like, you would feel something in that moment that would be a negative emotion. And that would be the initial trigger. If that's just like the only thing that happens during that time, you'll probably calm down before it escalates. But let's say after you bumped into that person, you like reacted in a way, you're like, hey, watch it or something like that, and then they retaliated and started a verbal like altercation, then you'd probably start feeling like frustrated and like, you're like, dude, like you bumped into me, and then you'd be all like defensive and you would start placing the blame on the other person. It kind of escalates from being like bothered to like frustration. You're like, oh, come on. Like now it's like, why'd you have to escalate the situation, etc. It's a snowball effect. So those first couple emotions start building. So you're already further from calm than you started at. If you let it escalate to anger, there's always a point. No matter who you are, there's always a point where you either explode or implode. And what that means is if you implode, that means you just kind of bottle it all up and you don't really react. You just kind of keep it inside. And when you're explosive, you react outward. Like you'll scream, you'll throw stuff, you'll be physical. Like there's a lot of different ways you can be explosive. It's just you'll be acting it out basically instead of keeping it inside. So that's the difference between the two. And for me, it's pretty complicated. For me, it depends on the situation. For example, if it's like a real life situation where there's another person involved, I'm usually more implosive than explosive. My fuse is a lot longer. Well, maybe not longer, but like it would take a lot in a real life situation for me to become explosive to another person. If I'm getting mad at a video game and I'm alone in my room and there's no one else around, like I'm just there in my room at the video game. So it's just like, I'm very explosive. I'm just immediately going to yell and scream and that kind of stuff. So like, I immediately just like have to get it out because it's just like, I kind of am aware of it, but I still lose control in the moment. And that's what I'm working on getting better about. But I did want to add one more point, that like, also in like online interactions when it's just like text on a screen, like I'm reading comments or like at a stream or something, or even like just chatting with people in a call, it's like in reality, I'm just like talking to voices. I don't see another person there. So I have that kind of disconnect. So I'm more prone to being more explosive at another person. So really for me, it really does come down to the situation. And it's so different when it's like a face-to-face interaction compared to online or just me in a video game. So when it comes to like a video game, for example, I tend to be a lot more explosive. I have to get it out just usually in the moment. But again, it's like a snowball effect. Once I reach angry, it's explosion. Like it's still a process. For everyone, it's always a few steps before it reaches that point. Again, that's what people are talking about when they say they have a long or a short fuse. It's that the amount of time it takes to get to that explosive or implosive point. Both of which are destructive and unhealthy in certain ways. You do need to do something with anger. You just have to find positive ways to do it and constructive ways to do it. And I will get to those in just a moment here. I want to talk real quick about the problems with being either implosive or explosive. If you're implosive and you just bottle it all up, sometimes you get so mad you just can't even like speak. You can't even just like, you're just trying to process the situation internally. And it just, getting it all bottled up will make it boil over to a worse breaking point to where you might become explosive because you have it so bottled up for so long. It's a bunch of anger that you didn't deal with. And that's the thing about anger is that you can be just bottling it up without even realizing it. And a lot of times the snowball effect is pretty long. Like, it could be something that happened weeks ago that you just kind of kept inside and didn't really work out. And that's why it's important to find these constructive ways of expressing the anger. Well, not necessarily expressing it, but getting it out, doing something about the anger itself. It has to go somewhere. You have to do something. And just to continue on the problems with being implosive, if you have stuff bottled up for so long, little things start bothering you and triggering you a lot faster, that you reach anger so much quicker because you have this stuff already bottled up, that you're already kind of in the first stages of progressing to anger because you have the stuff bottled up that just kind of is sitting there. And that tends to happen to me a lot. It's like I'll reach an explosive point where I'm just like, where the fuck did that come from? Like, why am I so angry? Why am I so angry at something that isn't even a big deal at all? Because in a normal circumstance, if I didn't have stuff so bottled up, it probably wouldn't have bothered me as much. And the problems with being explosive are pretty obvious. I mean, you can, if you punch a wall, you can break stuff. You can, like, destruction can occur. You can hurt somebody. You can hurt yourself. I've had times where I've gotten so mad, I've broken tables, I've broken controllers, I've punched holes in walls. That's about the extent of my explosiveness. That's about the worst it's gotten. Because usually it's just me yelling like really loud. And another problem with that kind of explosiveness is if you're in a household with other people, you don't want to disturb them by you yelling all the time because they can hear you, and like it can be bad. Like when I was younger too, I used to just stomp on the ground really hard, and it would just like you could hear it through the whole house, and it was bad. So you can bother people around you by just yelling, and an alternative to that, if you absolutely have to scream, which is something I started doing, was like I would just shove my face into a pillow and just scream, because that way I could get it out in the moment and not disturb others if there's people around me. But I'll get into constructive ways of dealing with it in just a second here. That's probably the next point I'm going to be getting to here. So how to deal with anger, and this is a very complicated thing. Everybody's different. Everyone has their own ways of dealing with it and their own outlets. So I recommend, if you're struggling with this, to try different things. So first, I'm going to get into some of the things that I've tried personally to help manage my anger better. And I think the most important one is this: recognizing and acknowledging that you are angry. It sounds very obvious and too simple kind of, but being extremely aware that you are mad can help you de-escalate the course that you're careening down on the road to anger. So recognizing the first emotions of that original trigger, because when it's happening. And if you don't try to get to that point where you can recognize it early, because the earlier you catch it, the easier it will be to calm down, and you will not reach the breaking point. Just in that instance, when you start feeling those emotions, just think in your head, just be like, okay, I'm angry. This is why I'm angry. And one method that I just started doing was to write down what just happened to make you angry, or those beginning emotions, whatever stage you're at in this anger, is just to get a notepad or go onto your computer and just type. What I did is I just opened up a notepad document, and I vent and rant, just like a diary, like a journal entry. And it's just like, I'm really pissed off right now because of this, and I hate it when people do this. I hate when stuff like this happens. Just use all the words that you want. Just rant onto the page and just get it out. And surprisingly enough, that actually really helps you evaluate the situation and think about it more clearly, because you can reread what you just wrote and be like, okay, so you can analyze it a little bit and realize why it was making you angry, analyze like all the steps that led up to that anger and what emotions occurred. And if you really are good about writing those things down and analyzing those, I think it's a lot easier to calm yourself down, because a lot of times, like, what it's done for me is like I realize how kind of silly I'm being and how I shouldn't be this mad about certain things. So that helps me calm down too, because then I get to realize how stupid it is, and I'm just like, okay, I can get over this. Especially when it comes to video games. I mean, come on, it's just a fucking game, and I get that, but it's just like I still have these feelings and these emotions, even though it is a stupid video game. It still gets me angry, and it's like I have to learn to control that, and this is a good way to do that. Another way that has really helped for me is when I'm really starting to get angry and I'm like, I feel the adrenaline and I'm like kind of further along the path to anger, and I've had the beginning emotions and I'm past that and I'm about to get like really angry. I'm about to just burst. I will do physical exercise. I will go and do like 20 push-ups and 20 sit-ups just to get out that energy. Sometimes I'll also just like go on the treadmill for a bit, just like run for a little bit, just do some sort of physical activity to get out that energy. And just exercise in general, I've actually been on a workout regimen that's been working for me. I've been doing some P90X, which I highly recommend. It's a very it's a very intense workout program, but I really like it a lot. But I do my own routines, and I pick and choose certain stuff from P90X that I do just because you want to have stuff that you want to do so you can actually do it. But I've been consistently working out on a regular basis for a few months now, and I'm in a comfortable routine that I can keep up for a really long time. So, and just being more physically active like that on a regular basis has just helped with my mental health in general and just emotions and all that stuff and controlling anger. And it's done a lot of good for me, a lot more than I thought it would. So I highly recommend physical activity. It also gets out that energy. And sometimes if I'm like bottling stuff up and I'm just in a bad mood, I'll just go high intensity on the workout and just be too tired to be angry. Like that's literally happened to me. I've just been too tired to be mad. So those are things I highly recommend and that I've seen results from for me personally. And another important thing to keep in mind is that like you cannot calm down by blaming other people or the situation that you're in. And that's a common thing when anger starts. When you're angry, you're usually blaming immediately. That's usually where you first go to. It's not your fault, it's whatever's making you angry's fault. And also journaling that out also helps you work out that too, like I said. And you'll realize that you're at fault here almost 100% of the time. And you will never calm down if you endlessly just keep blaming others or the situation itself. So it's important that after the anger happens to interrupt it. And the best way to do that is to just own it and be like, okay, I'm angry and I've got to do something about this, and I'm going to do something about this. Don't dump it onto others, and just own it yourself. Acknowledge that you're angry, and once you are able to process that, like you're writing it down or you have a solution of some kind, then the last step is to forgive yourself, forgive others, and realize the lesson that you've learned from all this. And what I just said, the last few statements that I said, I'll link a video in the description. I can't remember the channel name right now. I'm sorry. I'll put it in the description though, because I just saw this because I was just really mad, and I just looked up on YouTube. I'm like, I'm really mad. Like, how do I deal with this? And this was one of the first videos that came up. So a lot of the things that I just said, he explains in this video, which is very helpful. And please check it out because this helped me a lot too. And he also talks about the journaling and all that stuff and analyzing it, not blaming others, being able to forgive yourself and learn a lesson from it all. All those concepts were in that video, and that's where I got that from. So I want to give credit to that channel, which I will put up. I'll also put an annotation probably on my editing software. You can't do that on YouTube anymore. So anyway, those are a few ways that I recommend to help deal with anger and manage it better. And the important thing is to know that every method is not going to work for you. And I just gave a couple examples of stuff that worked for me. Another thing that I also recommend as a constructive solution is meditation and just mindfulness, and controlled breathing exercises really helped me a lot too. One thing that was always hard for me, people are like, oh, count to 10 or like 100 or something. That never worked for me because I just like, it always felt so stupid in the moment. Like that was my biggest problem with managing my anger, was that I knew some solutions, but in the moment of my anger, it just sounded so stupid that I didn't care and I didn't do anything about it. I didn't count to 10 or whatever. But definitely slowing down your breathing, it really does calm you down, because, you'll start, when you're angry, you'll start, breathing faster, your blood pressure rises. And so it's just not good. And that's why anger is a bad thing. It's very destructive and can do a lot of damage to your organs and to your mental health. And it's a very destructive thing. And that's why it's very important to learn to control it. And it's just something you have to do. And like I said, some of us just struggle a lot more with it, and that's okay. But learn to acknowledge it, learn ways to manage it better, and just be happy and healthy. And I think this is an appropriate time to put out this video. And I'm coming to a conclusion here. So thank you guys for listening to this, and again, I hope I was able to help anybody, because some of these things helped me a lot, and it's still a process. I'm still working on it. Literally right before I started recording this video, I actually had a really huge outburst of anger when I was playing a game earlier, and I was really pissed at myself for going down this road again, and basically just reverting back to old habits, and after all the progress I've made. But that's okay. Relapsing is going to happen, and you need to be able to forgive yourself and be like, you know what, you're trying, you're getting better. You'll see progress when you really start actively trying to control it and manage it better. So again, thank you guys for listening. And like I said, I feel like this is a really good time to post a video like this, because it's a very difficult time for everybody. And I just hope you all are doing all right and getting through this time, because it is a very difficult time, and it's understandable to be extremely angry right now, because I have been, because of all the things that have been going on in the world. And that's, again, bottling it up, and it's like it's adding to it, and it's hard not to be mad right now. But just step away from the news, step away from it for a while, work on yourself, make sure you're doing okay. And we'll get through this, I promise. So take care, everybody, and thank you so much for watching and listening. And again, stay safe, stay healthy, and have a good one, guys. I will see you later. Bye-bye.